Hi everyone. My name's Nav. I lead the design team at a company called buUuk. We're a small studio in Singapore, and we do iOS, Android development. We do mobile apps. We offer, basically, we're a client servicing company. We also make our own apps as well. But we do the entire stack, design, development, testing, server development as well. So what am I doing here at iOS conference, which kind of feels like a developer conference, right? I'm a designer. So just think of this app as one of those coin rooms, secret coin rooms in a Mario game. You don't have to go there, but if you go there, there's no monsters and there's just a lot of coins. So kind of, I'm hoping that you guys can take some things back, and if you find them valuable, use them in your process and the way you build apps and the products you build as well. So as part of my work, I talk to clients a lot. I work in the design team, collaborate with other designers, and I also work with a lot of developers. Most of the company is developers. Some of my developer colleagues are sitting there as well on the right-hand side. I usually love talking about, I'm very passionate about the plight of clients when working with designers and developers. Bogo mentioned earlier, designers and developers, a lot of times they get along well, but there are cases where they can be stressed. And if you think about talking to clients, I think that stress gets even amplified even more, right? Clients don't understand what designers or developers are talking about, and us on the other side, we don't know what the clients want. We don't think they know what they want. Sorry, that's funky. That's not the colors it's supposed to be. No worries. Actually, do we have a battery, a charger as well? I see one there. I just got a, yeah, all right, cool. Okay, thanks, Michael. Yeah, so I talk to clients a lot as well, and talking to clients isn't easy, but it is a part of my job. Clients pay me to work on products. Clients pay me for the expertise I bring to the table, and I think a part of that job is also making sure the clients understand what I'm talking about, making sure I'm not throwing words at them that kind of go above their heads, and they can't respond properly, and I end up thinking, well, my client's a dud. But I'm not here to talk about that today. I'm here to talk more about how we work with developers, and when I say we, I mean me, I mean my design team, I mean designers in general, and I'm hoping to kind of walk through a little bit about the design process that we have. I'm not going to try and go into how to use the tools that we use, but I think everyone's smart enough to figure that out, and all the tools come with, easy to learn manuals, and not manuals actually, tutorials and stuff. But I wanted to talk a bit more about why we use the tools we use, so that maybe, hopefully, you guys can see and pick and choose which tools could be useful for you as well. I want to start off by saying, when all of us in this room, build products, we're trying to build things that we're proud of, right? There's a sense of craftsmanship, workmanship. We're trying to get better at what we do. The end goal is always to build something, and hopefully it's to build something that we're proud of, right? We're proud to show it to others. We're proud to put it out into the world. We're proud when other people use it. You get that sense of satisfaction. And to do this, I'm a designer. I always think of it kind of as a collaborative process between skills, if not people. You have one-man teams building products as well, but there's different aspects of building a product that require different kinds of skills and tools. In my company, in our studio, in a lot of my past experience, and probably in the situations you're as well, these collaborations actually happen between people. It's not just one person always sitting there handling design and development as well. There's usually different teams or different people doing this, right? Building products together. A key thing here I like talking about is when we're building a product, there's a few questions that need to be answered. One of the first and foremost questions that we need to think of when building anything is why we're building it, right? What's the goal? What is the objective? What is this product going to do? That helps you define the product. There's also, who you're building it for, how you're going to build it, different skills. But the reason I mentioned the why is because I show this slide to my clients a lot, right? This is actually taken directly from one of my client presentations, that we need to keep this in mind, right? I, as a designer, could be sitting in that corner over there where it says user's needs because I'm thinking about what the user needs. But I'm not working alone, and that's not the only thing that the product's trying to solve. The product also needs to balance the business goals, but also the technical constraints as well, right? And this is where I need to work with my developers as well. As a designer, I end up talking to the client and the developers, and in some situations, the developers are talking to the clients as well, with the common goal that we're all trying to build a good product. That's very key. When we're trying to build a good product, there's one thing, if I had to give anyone one piece of advice to make the relationship with your peers better, is to leave your ego at the door. When I'm talking to my developers, when I'm talking to my clients, I'm not trying to show them I'm better than them. No, I'm actually trying to help them build something better, build something good. When I'm talking to my developers, I need to give them everything. I need to enable them to build exactly what I've imagined in my designs, right? So when I go to my developers and they give me a product, a working version of the product back, and it doesn't match my designs, my first reaction isn't that, oh, this developer is being lazy. My first reaction is, I was lazy because I probably didn't give the developer the full information that they need to build the product the way I want the product to look like. So what I want to talk about today on that note is, why we designers do some of the things we do. There'll be a few buzzwords here and there, but I'll try my best to explain in simple words basically the effects of the tools that we use. This is a slide, I hope you guys can read it. Yeah, okay, I think that should be okay. This is a slide that I show to my clients as well, It's a very simplified version, but a fancy looking version of the entire process, We'll start at the left side, your left. We're trying to figure out why we're building what we're building. What's the purpose? Once we've, staked out the main questions, what we're building, why we're building it, who we're building it for. We'll then move on to the exploration phase, where we'll then sit down and try to figure out, well, okay, what are the different ways we can build it? And we'll try to do this in a very iterative, very short cycle fashion, so that we can explore and go into a lot of different directions. We can figure out the different ways we can solve the problem, and throw away eliminated a lot of the ones that don't fit our needs. And after that, we kind of go into the creation phase. In the creation phase, we're maybe looking at how the design could work, what the design direction should be, what the UI should look like, what are the transitions, what are the animations, all those details. Once we're done with that, we'll go into the building stage, which is the actual building and executing the product. And by the end of it, we're on a new product, right? That's actually called release when I say it to clients, but we're actually at the end of the cycle and we're now building a new product. One thing I can't stress upon enough is that throughout this process, there's testing. And the reason I haven't put it anywhere particular on the entire curve is that it actually has to go on almost throughout the entire cycle. Just a reminder to keep that in mind. So what I've put here is a process, right? And a lot of us working in this industry where we're designing and developing new products don't necessarily like processes, and there's a reason for that, because processes kind of remind us of the old archaic ways of working, right? You do it this way, and then it's an assembly line, right? And I kind of come from the same school as well, that, a process shouldn't be an assembly line. It shouldn't be something you have to follow. But use your processes as a guideline. That's really what it is, Processes help me I have a process that helps me figure out what I need to do when I'm feeling a bit lost, okay? It helps me check off some of the basic questions that I should be asking, some of the basic things I should be exploring. So, just on the note of the process, trust it, question it, and keep changing it. Don't take it as, I've got these 5 things that I do in every project, and that's how I'm going to do it, because no one works that way, at least in this room. So just a small note on that. Moving on to the process, a few key things here. There's a lot of questioning when you're building any product. You want to question, like I was saying, a few questions: why, what, how. You also want to question other things about why can't we do it this way? Why should we be doing it this way? Why are we building it for some platform? So there's a lot of questioning, there's a lot of exploration, and one key thing to remember, I keep saying one key thing, I've said it like 5 times. Another key thing to remember maybe is, we're using this process to make sure we figure out the things that we don't know. It's those small things that you don't know which will matter. It's kind of like the coin room that I had earlier. You can play the game, but you don't know there's a coin room. It's not gonna hurt you, but those who know will have a clear advantage, right? You rack up those coins and get your power-ups. So this is important. So when I show this slide to my clients, I've just kind of simplified it here, just to kind of so we can see where I'm coming from. But when I show it to the clients, it's kind of like this, to kind of explain to them that these are the phases of the development process that you're looking at. You start with figuring out the requirements, then you go into the wireframing and testing and iteration phase. We go into the UI design and prototyping phase. We go into the development and testing phase, and then we go into the release. And this is kind of what I'm going to use to guide myself through my talk today as well. I'm going to start at the first point, which is the requirements phase. What do we do? What do I mean by the requirement phase, or the first module? That's really the first meeting you have with your clients. You sit down with the client. A client comes to you and says, "Hey, we want to build something. We want to build an Instagram for sports, right?" And they think they have a clear picture in their mind. What you need to do then is sit down with them, talk to them, explore, understand, question exactly what they have in mind. I like to use this analogy that when someone tries to explain a concept to me, concepts are very tricky because they're so intangible. When someone tries to explain a concept to me, they've got a picture of the concept in their mind. They've got a vision in their mind, right? But that vision gets converted into words, and that's what I get as well. Now, when I get these words, I'll make another picture in my mind. And most of the time, usually, these two pictures that I have in my mind and the picture that the client had in their mind end up being completely different, right? So how do you get past this? How do you make sure that everyone's on the same page? Pick up a whiteboard and a marker, right? When you're talking to your clients, this is very essential. It's one of those parts of the process that I like to trust. You should just do this every time, because you might be sitting there talking to someone and thinking you understand everything, but you're not. Just pick up a marker. If you're having a discussion with your clients or your developers, when you're talking about concepts, pick up a marker and start drawing what you have in your mind on a piece of paper, on a piece of whiteboard, chalkboard, whatever you have access to. Just so that at the end of the day, when at the end of the discussion, half an hour later, when you're done, everyone's actually looking at the same visual. Everyone's looking at the same picture. You've discussed something, but both the parties are all the parties are on the same page. This is from our office. Is just a glass wall. It doesn't matter what it is. The idea is just to get it out in front of you so everyone understands what you're talking about. Is another one. I don't even remember what project it is. It doesn't have to be neat and clean. It's just there to explore and to figure out what you're talking about. At this stage, there's a few other things that we should be thinking about. This is at the requirement stage, when we haven't started working on the project, but we're just trying to figure out what the project is. Now, we might have a better idea of what the project is here by doing this exercise. When a client tells me Instagram for sports, and that is actually what a client told us, came to us and said about 2.5 years ago, they wanted to build an Instagram for sports. And we started, sketching on the screen, because when someone says to me, I'm thinking, oh, they want pictures and a feed and, something like that, and it's only pictures of sports. But they had a very different concept in mind. The only thing they were talking about when a client said to me, Instagram for sports, is they wanted pictures which were square. That was really the only thing from that initial concept, right? But the client's trying very hard to explain to me what they have in mind, and they're trying to simplify it and trying to talk in the language that I understand. So this is very important. Put everything on screen. Don't make a lot of assumptions. Don't make any assumptions. Try to just put everything on in front of each other and talk about these things. Be obvious. The next thing is, at this stage, as someone who's going to build this product for a client, you should also be asking questions about what you need to build a product. I've just written down a few questions which I think, even you could just write them down, one by one. I mean, these slides will be up later. But these are some of the questions that I kind of have in my Evernote. When we're working on projects, we're working on like 10 different projects throughout a year. You're going into client meetings all the time, in and out, different stages of projects. And sometimes I'm walking into a meeting and I'm like, so today is the requirements meeting, what am I supposed to be talking about? This is kind of like my cheat sheet, really. This kind of gets my mind going, my brain going, right? Very key things. Who on the client side is going to be making the decisions? And when I say this to clients, I say, I love opinions. We need to have opinions when we're discussing, but making decisions is always going to be more important than having opinions. You put 5 people in the room, everyone will have opinions. What I mean by that is, when you say, how do we do this button? How do we do the design? What's the design direction? How do we implement this feature? Do we implement this feature? Everyone will have an opinion whether that feature should be implemented or not, or whether the design should be like this or like this or like this. But you need some people who are going to be making the decisions. You can keep rolling with opinions and you'll get nowhere. You need people who can take decisions and help you move forward when you need to. You as a designer or a developer or a product guy or girl, product person, you're responsible for asking questions and getting those opinions out, but you're also responsible to keep the project on time, on a timeline or on a deadline. So you need to know who will make the decisions. And if someone tells you, this is just from experience, tells you the 3 of us, say that's not a good answer. You need one person. You can discuss between the 3 of you, but we need one person. You need one person you can chase, right? Don't leave it to 3 people. It's just something you need to do. And when you say this, you might think the clients will be like, oh, we can't work with you, you're difficult. No one will think that way, really, believe me, trust me. Just chase that one person who's going to help you make the decisions, and you will be happy. Then you need to ask the client, who's your audience? Who are we building it for? Are we building it for kids? Are we building it for grown-ups? Are we building it for people above the age of 50? Are we building it for people with disabilities? Are we building it for, where's the audience? Are we building it for people in India? Are we building it for people in Europe, China, Japan? What's your audience? Within Singapore, you might say, well, it's only for people living near the water, or it's for people who are living near gas plants. Or you need to know what your audience is. All these things help you define the product, help you put a product definition on a screen in front of the client that they can agree to. Again, these things will help you when you're trying to get the client to take decisions. These things will help you guide the different discussions that you have. Just a few more. I'm not going to go too much into detail here. Ask questions about what is the problem that you're trying to solve. A part of the designer's job, or I'm going to probably keep using designer because that's just my role these days. But I've been a product manager. I've been a designer full-time for about 4 years, but for 6 years before that, I was a product manager. And I used to say the same things, but I would say as a product manager. It could be as a developer. It's anyone who's trying to build a product. You need to know a few key things. In your role, there's kind of like 3 main levels or 3 main steps. You need to figure out what the problem is. Someone might tell you, I have this problem, but they might not be telling you the real problem. You need to question and figure out what the real problem is that you're trying to solve. Then you need to figure out the solutions for those problems. And then the third is you need to execute on those solutions, right? So right now we're at the first step. We're trying to figure out what the problem is. You need to figure out what the problem is, which means you need to ask your clients what they think the problems are, question them, and then once you're satisfied, once everyone feels satisfied, you will have a clearer direction. And then if you figured out the problem, why are you trying to solve it? And at the end, once we solve it, how will we measure the success? The last question is very important, especially when you're talking to clients, especially at the beginning of projects, because that, again, will help get you somewhere. If a client says, we're just building it and we'll see where it goes, it's never going to be that way, because once you release the product, the client will start measuring it somehow. They need to know if they put these many dollars somewhere, how are they performing? Everyone has an answer to it. Ask the right questions and get the right answers. Just a small, this is kind of like that coin that I was talking about, the magic coin. Just an exercise that we do a lot with our clients. I call it the 20-second gut test. I use it to figure out things like what kind of UI style does my client like. Do they like a flat design? I'm just talking really high level here, just so that everyone understands. Flat design. Do they like bright colors? Do they like very skeuomorphic stuff? Do they like, do they have a color theme that want to go towards? If your client this is a new product, completely new product you're building, chances are your client will not know what they want. They will say, why don't you make something and show it to us, and then we'll tell you if it works or not. That will just mean you end up spending a lot of time making mock-ups, which a lot of them will be thrown out. This exercise is very useful for that. Just in that use case, what you do is, if you're making an app, for instance, make 20 slides with screenshots from 20 different apps, one slide, 3 screenshots from one app. Just try to pick apps with very different styles to them, right? Interface styles to them. Give your clients a Likert scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ask your clients to rate each slide that they see on a scale of 1 to 5, right? What you're trying to do here is, in a very short period of time, don't show the slides for a very long time, because all you're trying to gauge is the interest based on the visual feel in this case, right? So you're showing 20 slides, 20 different styles, and everyone's sitting around a table just ranking your websites. After that, collect the pages, and if you want to have a very short discussion, only bring up the slides that had a 1 rating, which is the lowest, or a 5 rating, which is the highest. You can then go back, put it in the Excel sheet and try to figure out how every slide did. But all you're looking for is the edge cases. Why did someone sitting around the table not like slide number 5? What was wrong with it? Bring it up on the screen and ask them to explain. Just ask for opinions. So what was it that didn't work here? If there's a slide they really liked, what was it that you really liked? At the end of this exercise, you'll have some tangible information to play with, right? And this, just a caveat, this is not going to give you the exact design direction, but it will give you a very good starting point, right? You will still have to go back and explore. 5 minutes. Oh yeah, this clock must be wrong. Okay. Anyway, so that's in the requirement stage. Going on to the wireframes, right? So designers do a lot of wireframes as well, but why do we make wireframes? The reason we make wireframes is, once you know what you're building, what you're trying to build, you need to then try to figure out how you're going to build it. What are the solutions that will work best? In wireframes, our wireframes end up looking something like this, right? They're just pieces of paper, black and white, something you do very quickly, and you're trying to figure out what features go into the product, how the features are going to be organized, and you're also trying to explore the different options for every feature, right? So if there's a sign-up flow, you take a piece of paper or a piece of, or a pen or any tool that you like, and you just start sketching them out. The goal here is not to spend too much time, not to obsess over details at this stage. When you start with your wireframes, you're not obsessing over details, you're just looking at the overall structure. You're looking at a very high-level picture. And again, whatever you have in your mind, you're trying to put it on a piece of paper so that then you can go to the client, and instead of speaking all these concepts, they see it on a piece of paper, and they can start telling you, we like this, we don't like this, maybe we can do it in a different way. A few tools we use. in our design team at buUuk, everyone uses different tools. I like starting with a piece of paper and pencil because it's just quick. I can go back to my clients very quickly. If they don't like anything I've made, I've lost like half a day or even less, right? I haven't spent like 3 days or 4 days just building really nice looking wireframes. They don't like it, they throw it away, because that's not the goal here. We're not looking at a neat style. We're just looking at exploring the structure and the features. And take my word for it, just do it. Even if it's your idea, just start putting it on a piece of paper. You'll start figuring things out. There's a few other tools we use. OmniGraffle, Sketch, you can use Illustrator, whatever you like. The reason I'm putting these tools up on the screen is because sometimes I've seen different tools can help you think in different ways as well. And I kind of, that's kind of like a simple hack that I do with myself. I'll be using pencils for like 3 months and then I'll suddenly switch to something else just so that maybe help me think in different ways. Can't stress enough, test your wireframes as well. I'll just show you what that means. This is one of the wireframes, looking at a detail of one of the apps we released last year. It's the NEA, the government app for weather in Singapore. These are some of the initial wireframes. We're just kind of trying, this is actually quite late in the process, trying to figure out the flows of the wireframes, trying to figure out what one part connects to how one part connects to the other. The goal of the wireframe stage for us is really to make it so comprehensive that you have this big kind of like mind map that you have in front of everyone. You can look at all the different features and say, okay, this relates to this one like this goes here like this goes here like this. When you've got this, take each of these screens and build the first prototype. I'll just quickly talk about prototypes as well. Build your first prototype and just start going to people who haven't been in the meeting rooms where you've been taking these decisions, putting it in front of people and just looking at their reactions. You will always figure out things that you didn't know. That's very key. I'm not going to talk about the design process because I think that gets covered a lot, so I'm going to skip that part. I'm going to move straight to prototyping. What do I mean by prototyping? There's actually there's many types of prototyping, but there's two main areas that I want to talk about. One is prototyping concepts and the other is prototyping animations. The reason we prototype, or what do we prototype interactions, and we prototype animations, and we prototype fields. Even if you're a developer, you're prototyping all the time, right? You have an idea in mind, you quickly put it in code, and you try to see how it works. Does it work? Does it not work? When I tap it, when it flips over, okay, cool. Sorry, I got distracted there. Prototype, yeah. So what you're trying to do in prototyping is trying to figure out what the concept that you have in mind, do they actually work? You've all discussed, you've all agreed on things you like to do, but now it's time to test them and really, when someone says, well, we'll have a big button here because people will tap on it and then the next screen will come up and we'll give them 3 options. Everything sounds good, even when you put it on a piece of paper, but put it in front of someone who hasn't used it or even knows about the concept. That's when you really get to know if your concepts, your validations, your assumptions, your assumptions are validated or not. Do they work or not? Instead of talking too much about prototypes, I actually like to show some of the prototypes. This is one of the first set of prototypes, which is when you're trying to test the interactions, when you're trying to test how your app works. These are just some tools. I'll actually quickly show you guys some of the tools. I need to exit this. Let me go here. What do I have here? Okay, cool. There we go. Okay, so what I have here is, this is InVision. The way you work in InVision is you just go there, you say, I want to create a new product. And then you put your screens, you dump your screens right into the InVision screens, into the web page. What it allows you to do is it allows you to specify these small hotspots all over the screen and build. So if I tap, sorry, let me just show you, yeah. So the blue things that you see are the hotspots that I've defined. What InVision allows you to do is put these screens in. You can tie these hotspots to different screens, which means when I, let's say, if I tap here, just showing me my hotspots, if I tap on bills, it's just going to take me to a different screen. That's the bill screen. And these can be installed on your phones. It's just a link that you send to a client. They tap on it, it gets installed on their phone, and now they can play around with these directly on their phones. What you can also do in tools like InVision, Flinto, Marvel, is you can also add in your animations. So this is just a prototype that we did last year. It's not used anywhere, but so what we're trying to show here is you've got a client and they've got a few different types of power meters, and how you're going to look at the information details for every power usage, power meter, is you click on any one of them and it should then, right, so you saw that animation, that's just a video that I've put into InVision. So InVision allows you to combine static files with videos and create something that feels like your final app. Similarly, I can go, okay, well, this is how the second screen will look, this is how my detail screens will look, and so on. You can just keep building this very, very quickly without touching any piece of code. The reason it's key is I could go to my developers and say, hey, let's build this in code, but it's going to take a lot longer to build this in code. When I'm using these tools, they make it very, very easy to build these things. So let me just go back here to InVision just to show you guys. Here's another InVision project that I have. It's another internal app that we were working on last year. It's a chat app, and we were just trying to figure out the sign-up flow. And what we ended up using was just the wireframes. We didn't even do the mock-ups. We just had these black and white wireframes, and we put them in InVision just to test our flow, right? So these things, again, I can't stress enough, the reason we do these things is so that you can put it in front of people who don't know about the project and then play around with them. Okay, and then what about these animations that I was talking about earlier? That's a lot of my research here. Yeah. So for the animations that I was showing, there's a lot of products as well. Here's a few. I'll just quickly mention Principle and Pixate are very, very easy to use. They're like, if you use PowerPoint, they're just like that. The interface is very similar. You just put things there and say, okay, when someone taps here, drag it and say this is the last point where it should be. We use a lot of these tools. And if you like having a bit more control over your animations, you can use Framer.js. It uses JavaScript, and you can build very complex, very, very interesting things in there. The last point of my talk, very quick one, is UI specking. This is where we execute everything we've made. Now, this actually is something, the reason I'm telling you guys is not so that you guys will use it, because I don't think this is very useful as a developer. I think actually it's very useful as a developer, but developers shouldn't be doing this. Designers should be doing this. So you know when a designer comes to you and says, well, that should be 2 pixels to the right, there should be 3 pixels to the left, tell them to give you good UI specs. What I mean by UI specs is, details like this. This is one of the apps we did. This is one of our internal documents. For a designer, honestly, this doesn't take too long. It looks boring. It's just a part of my job, but it enables my developers to make the apps the way I want them to make them. I want to give my developers this information, and you can get very, very detailed about it. Most of the information is actually repeated, so you just got the screenshot, and you're just dragging, dropping things around. But this can be priceless when giving to developers. And I try to get very detailed about them. Just last thing, actually, really. There's actually a lot of apps that allow you to automate UI specs as well. Give your designers a few links to these. InVision's got a new product coming out called Insight. Zeppelin's already out. They just have to drop their files and it generates everything for them. So just wrapping up, I would say the foundation of building good products is to really, in a team, is really, you trust your peers, you respect your peers, but don't forget that you need to earn that respect as well, because if you know you've earned that respect and trust from your peers, it'll be much easier to do the same with your peers as well. And with that, I'll drop you back to the main stage out of the coin room. Thank you, everyone. My name's Nav, and I'll be around for discussions. Thank you very much.